right, hi everybody. We're just gonna give folks a few more minutes to log on. And then Les, I did get a text from Mary that she is going to be late. I don't know what time she'll be able to join.
Okay,
We'll have,
thank you.
yep. Does anybody know if Mike's going to be joining? And Tessie?
No.
No, I don't know.
We need one more for quorum.
What about Mary?
Mary's going to be late, unfortunately, and I'm not sure what time she's going to be joining me. Let me text Steph. I don't have Tessie or Mike's number.
Chair,
Yes.
I wonder if I could, I don't know if it's allowed to advise some members of the public that are here for the Board of Water Supply, from Board of Water Supply, about our last meeting to save them some time.
Oh, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I do that? Okay, Dominic, I see you there. Hello.
Hi.
We had the exemption committee in the last hour, and we were hoping to see you there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But even if we had, we had two other items that took up almost the whole meeting, so we weren't able to get to yours.
Okay.
So I'm very sorry, but we don't have anything to advance to the council today. And
Okay.
we can take your item up at the next meeting of the council.
Sure. So if you just send me the links there, then I can join.
Right.
So I would join for the 12 o'clock session.
Yeah, join for both if you can, because the first is the committee, and that gives the recommendation to the council, and the committee is the one that has the greater discussion usually.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, sorry if that wasn't clear. I figured you weren't there because of you guys are all hands on deck for Red Hill or something.
I have been in meetings all day.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for what you're doing there. I think on behalf of the whole council. And but we'll take your item up in the next one, and I'll make it at the very top. So
Okay.
yeah,
That's
no problem.
February 1st, Dominic.
February 1st. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Sorry about that, and thank you for understanding.
No problem. Thank you all.
Okay, take it easy.
Signing off.
Okay, take care. Okay, good. Looks like Tessie has joined. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so we will have quorum. Hi Tessie, welcome. Okay, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's 1:05 p.m. We do have quorum. So just as a reminder, folks, as of January 1st, the new law went into effect. So for council members, as a reminder, you do have to be on camera during the meeting, the entire meeting pursuant to the new law. The portion of the law that was temporarily suspended is the portion where we have to have a physical location for members of the public. Although Les had already booked it and our agenda did provide for it. So Les is in room, I think 406, right? In the state office building. So I'll just ask that Mahina please come on screen so that we can be compliant. And also, we'll wish her a happy birthday. Today's her
Oh,
birthday.
thanks, Onauna. And I'm so sorry. I'm on the road, so I'm finding a place to park and then I'll come on camera. So sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Sorry. I mean, Jody can correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was part of the law, unfortunately, with our new rules. So, and thank you, Robin actually sent me the sneaky message to remind everybody that it's your birthday, Mahina. So happy birthday.
Oh, thanks, guys. So sorry. I'll just be like 2 minutes or 1 minute. So sorry.
Okay, no worries. Thank you. I'm glad you're getting somewhere safe. So I'll just, while Mahina's doing that, briefly go over the other things. The other changes are that we do each, when introducing ourselves, have to state whether or not there is anybody else in the room with us. So I'll be going around. I'll go ahead and start us off on that, and then let's go in the order of the agenda from there. Just to make it simple, I think everybody probably has the agenda in front of them. That's for council members, and then I'll go ahead and call on those folks, the members of the public who have joined, and our OP, ERP, and AG personnel. So Onauna Thone, nobody is here with me. Okay, Mary's not here, Roy. Go ahead.
Roy Alvey, nobody's here with me.
Okay, Dawn.
Dawn Hager Norblom, nobody here with me. Thanks.
Okay, Makaala.
I'm here and I'm by myself.
Robin.
Robin K, I'm also by myself.
Okay, then Tessie. Oh, Tessie, you're on mute.
Happy New Year. I'm good, all by myself.
Okay, hi Tessie, thanks. Ron.
Ron Terry, solo.
Okay, and Mahina.
Mahina Tudor, by myself.
Okay, thank you. All right, and I'll go to you, Les.
Oh, Leslie Segundo, I'm here in room 406 of the Land Use Commission. There's no one here with me.
Thanks, Les. Mary Alice. You're on mute.
Mary Alice Evans, staff to the Environmental Advisory Council.
Okay, is anybody with you in the room with you?
No, I'm alone.
Okay, and then I'll go to Pane Meatonga. Pane, if you're talking, you're on mute. Okay, maybe we'll go to Jody first. Jody, AG.
Hi, Jody Yee. No one is present with me.
Thanks, Jody. Raymond Severn, if you can go ahead and just introduce yourself and your organization and whether or not anybody's in the room with you.
Hi, my name's Ray. I'm with HDOTA Airports Division. I'm just listening in as a interested member of the public. No one is with me at this time.
All right, welcome. Okay, Pane, are you there? Okay, Pane's not answering, so I'll just note that he is a member of the public. We don't yet know if anybody's in the room with him, but we'll proceed. So thank you everybody for joining. We do not have meeting minutes for this meeting. I think we will have a couple of sets ready for review and approval at the February meeting. So next I'll go ahead and hand it over to Mary Alice Evans for the OPSC Director's Report.
Good afternoon. I had hoped to have Dan Ordenker here to present a short briefing on the State Land Use Commission, but I don't see him. I've sent him the Zoom link and a reminder, but so he may be joining later. The Office of Planning and Sustainable Development has several legislative budget briefings this week. And one of them includes requesting the restoration of funding for the Planner 5 in the Environmental Review Program staffing component. So I just wanted to let you know that that we are asking for those funds, and we're very hopeful that we will be able to get restoration and be able to hire after July 1st, 2022. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Maria Alice, for doing that. Just one question, follow up to a question we had previously. I know you said last time you had spoken to boards and commissions about, additional member appointments. We're just wondering if you had any updates on that.
No, I haven't heard from Sharon Ibarra since the last meeting in December. My apologies if we haven't heard back yet on any progress on that. But thank you, Chair, for your letter of urgent request to boards and commissions for that. I'm hopeful.
Yeah, we'll keep working on them. Thank you as well for speaking with her. All right, does anybody else have any questions for OPSC in the director's report? Okay. All right, so yeah, we were supposed to have, just an overview of the LUC. We'll table or defer that from now. I'm also going to take some things out of order because we had, for the exemption committee, we had actually anticipated we would have the LUC presentation. And so we asked the DOT folks to come on a little bit later and DTS as well. Oh, sorry, actually just DTS to come on a little later at 1:30. So Ron, if you're okay, I'll go ahead and defer that until we get closer to that 1:30 timeline. Okay, so Mary is also not here. But if we go to item number 5, I don't know if anybody else from the INL committee wanted to just give an update on forum planning and any status update for INL. Thanks, Dawn.
I think that we are waiting for the, I guess we have to go for the transportation forum, and we're just waiting to see who would be available. And then regarding our last forum, a lot of people kind of dropped out because they had to have meetings with the governor. So we'll work on that too. But I don't think there's much that we're doing. Roy, I don't know if there's anything you want to add.
No. Yeah, what you said was all I know also, so thanks.
I just want to thank you guys for the work you did last year and encourage you to, I know how difficult it is, but the energy one would have been a terrific one. You had a great panel lined up, and I realize that I think Scott had to go with the governor, and it was all kinds of conflicts, but please don't let that slip off your plate by any means. It would have been really valuable.
I agree with that. That's one that I think we all look forward to hearing about. So hopefully that can be rescheduled. All right. Well, thank you, Dawn and Roy, for stepping in and giving that update. Next up on the agenda, I put back on the same item that we had in December about discussion of Act 220. And we already discussed this last time. But the reason I wanted to put it on is because this is the first month that we actually are, implementing Act 220. So I wanted to give this group the opportunity to ask Jody any questions, if you had any, if there were any kinks to work out. And I know on the tech side, I think the cameras in the public room that Les is in weren't working today. So he's on his normal computer. As it works out, Governor ended up suspending the public meeting room one anyway. So we know we'll work on, getting the tech side ready for that. But does anybody else have any questions on, the new act and what we need to do? Questions or comments, I guess. Okay. Well, we'll continue to kind of move through that. I also added back in that, continued discussion of HRS Chapter 92 constraints in case there was anything anybody wanted to add to that discussion that we had last week. And
I was going to add a component to the legislative committee conversation about that.
Okay.
Because we will be speaking with Senator Gabbard and Rep. Lowen, I was going to ask the entire council if they had any specific requests they'd like us to bring, and that might be an appropriate place to have that conversation, if that's okay with you.
Oh yeah, that would be wonderful. Okay, so I will go ahead then, Robin, and actually turn it over to you for the legislative committee update. And maybe we can add that discussion in about chapter 92 here.
Right. A couple of things. First, the legislative committee could not meet today. We didn't make quorum. And I know, birthday girl, but it wasn't your fault. I can see your face all scrunched up. It's okay. So what I want to do is kind of walk you through some notes that I have. I haven't shared them with you in terms of shared screen or sent them out as a PDF, primarily because these are just my notes from Senator Gabbard, Representative Lowen, and Representative Tarnis's presentations at the climate change conversations that were Zoom meetings held last month. And because they were just my notes, I didn't want anyone to think that these were the words these representatives and senators had used. So that's why I didn't put it out on a piece of paper, but I'll walk you through it. The conversation was basically, what are the priorities for each of those three legislators for the 2022 session? And Senator Gabbard was the most specific. And he said he wants to re-examine SB 502, which is the Green Amendment, SB 493, which is carbon positive incentive, and a visitor green fee, which is SB 666. So I would encourage you to look at those three in particular, and you'll get a sense of what Senator Gabbard's hoping to focus on this coming year. Again, he was very sick that day, and so I'm glad he was so specific about the three bills he was looking at. There may be others, but he just didn't say. Then Representative Lowen spoke, and of course, you know, she's the chair of the House Committee on Energy and Environmental Protection, and it was she and Senator Gabbard who were so helpful to us last year in getting HB 1318. Oh, no, that was the number, right? 1318, enacted, which birthed us to Mary Alice. Thank you very much. And so Representative Lowen spoke in more general terms rather than specific legislation. And so again, this is why I didn't post this, but the terms she threw out for her priorities in no specific order were the following: decarbonization, carbon pricing, in particular, how the social cost of carbon is dealt with the PUC and airlines and air transportation. These are things, again, she wants to explore. The issue of geothermal power, the issue of EV, particularly with buses, green fees from tourism, wastewater, cesspools, waste management, Roy, pay attention here, and the Red Hill issue, clearly. And again, I apologize. This is just what I heard as she was speaking on a Zoom meeting with, there must have been 100 people on there. And then Representative Tarnis, with whom I've had no experience, so this was the first time, but he was very articulate. He's the chair of the House Committee on Water and Land. And I know Mary Alice must know him. But he had a number of things that were on his plate. One, I think, is too late. The state district boundary review was open for comments. I don't know if it's still open or not. The state sustainability plan that Danielle presented to us a couple of meetings ago was one of his priorities. A herbivore management plan. A green fee, like the blue fee from ocean-related tourism. Wildfire issues, an overabundance of goats. And he's a Big Island, is that right, Mary Alice?
Mm-hmm.
It's a Big Island. So there's a goat issue there, just as there's a deer issue on Molokai and Lanai and Maui as well, in terms of overabundance. He talked about an Act 90 working group, which Act 90 was the transfer of DLNR. Mary Alice knows exactly where we're going. It was the transfer of DLNR land to the Department of Agriculture. And the one bill he pointed out from was to HB 498, which was preservation of aquatic habitat mitigation. It was, I looked at the bill, it was interesting. I think it's worth your look. So it's HB 498. And then HB 46, which basically wanted habitat conservation plans to establish an emergency facility for native wildlife that were endangered for. And then increasing penalties for aquatic resource violations and focusing on mosquitoes and avian malaria. So again, those were, I'm sorry to just throw this out to you and make you take notes on it. I just was not comfortable quoting that conversation. But those were the priorities that those three, probably most important to the Environmental Advisory Council's work, their priorities. So Onana and I are going to be speaking with Representative Lowen and Senator Gabbard on the 11th in the afternoon, 2 o'clock. And what I wanted to focus this conversation about, and I'll shut up in a minute, this conversation from you is, what do you want us to add? Two components of this. What do you want us to ask? Onana and I have thought part of the meeting would be a presentation of how we're doing so far, what's going on with our transition to Mary Alice's department, and how successful or HB 13, I keep forgetting, 1318, 1350 was. And but part two would be, what priorities did we need from them to address? And thus comes the issue of this Chapter 92. What do we want from the legislature this year? So with that, I throw it open to you. I apologize for talking so much on this, but please, I open it up to the floor. Onana, you want to add anything to that before we all get going?
No, I think you did a good job of summarizing that. So yeah, I mean, it can be anything with, you know, their priorities, or just anything that the council wants to bring up, any fixes that we need or desire, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm going to lie. I do have one more thing to say, and that is my personal belief, and I haven't shared this with Onana yet, and you all may disagree, and I won't do it, but it's to raise the boards and commissions issue with them. I don't know that they can do anything or whether we are asking them to do anything, but I think somebody's got to solve or address that issue for us. And maybe if at least we make them aware of it, it might help get some movement. So with that, I will shut up. Makala, you're this is a
I'm training a new Roomba. It's hysterical. Sorry. And I apologize for the background noise. Once I figure out all the technology, I'll be good. These things are independent lives, man. I would like to put something on the table for discussion that's kind of not something we've ever talked about, but it's big in my world right now. And that is the loss of water storage facilities. As the state of Hawaii has responded, reacted, rejected reservoirs and dams, and freaked out and forced the closing of many of them because of insurance, etc. We have in fact lost the ability to store water in some locations, specifically the North Shore of Kauai. If we close the Kalihiwai Reservoir, we will have none, zero water storage. I have not broached this with anyone else, but I do put it out there for discussion today. It doesn't seem like an emergency thing, but it could be. And it could also extend into our conversation of sustainability, our conversation of potential power generation, etc. We do have some fall to the one we have here. But because DLNR is so nervous about even saying the word dam, they won't have the conversation with those of us here. There is in fact a federal fund that will fund restoration. Hawaii has never applied, and it would require DLNR to apply. And I'm looking for some political will to encourage a very nervous DLNR Dams Division to at least consider the longer view of cutting off your nose to spite your face with the closure of some of these reservoirs. They are old earthen dams. There's no two ways about it, but some of them are in pretty good shape, and some of them, like Kalihi wise, have been very well engineered for restoration. So it's not an impossible task. And the other one, of course, is I really do want to have that conversation about geothermal. It's a tough one, and it's being had in smaller conversations with key people in the state. But I think for the sake of transparency and for good inclusion in Mana'o, we need to start saying, you know, where are we really with this? Or is this still possible? Is this still doable? We must think about this. I think the best way to do that is to say it out loud, and start looking at, you know, if that's really feasible, if that's really doable, and if the obstacles are just too hard. As far as herbivore management, yeah, and don't forget pigs. Some of the impacts of these mammals isn't just what they eat and how they disturb the ground. It's the enterococcus that comes from their gut that proceeds very fast down our steep slopes and streams, especially if it's raining, and into our seas, and causes all kinds of issues in our streams and in our bays. And if that includes an area where cats are, then it includes toxoplasmosis and is deadly. So I'd like to take that herbivore conversation and just widen it a little bit so that it's not just the ones munching on the leaves. Mahalo.
Ron?
Yeah, I did want to comment about the herbivore, particularly the goat issue there, because I was involved with that. Our organization, another organization I'm a member of, the Nahelehele Dry Forest Working Group, which seeks to preserve and enhance the dry forest throughout the state of Hawaii, was a co-sponsor of something that Dave Tarnas was involved in too. And I'll try to get the URL. I'm sure I can find it somewhere for this presentation. It was super interesting about how to deal with goats. And it's a little less applicable to axis deer because they don't like being penned in very much, but goats don't mind it so much. So they were able to take a horrible problem at the national park at Pu'uhonua o Hononau and, you know, turn lemons into lemonade. They did this drive with a whole bunch of goats, 1,000 goats. And over the course of, I think it was just 2 days, got them all rounded up, got them out of the park, stopping munching endangered plants, and really, you know, causing a huge issue for everyone, traffic accidents and all kinds of stuff, and gave them to people to have as well, meat animals basically for food. And it was super successful. It didn't cost all that much money. It involved the whole community. And I think you'd all be interested in seeing it. It's a little different than the approach that's sometimes been taken by the national park. And, you know, because they've had to, of going up in helicopters and shooting, you know, hundreds of them if they could get to them. And it seemed to be more acceptable to the community. And it certainly provided more community benefits. So I'll find that URL and send it to Les and have him distribute it.
Thank you, Ron. That would be great. Yeah, we over here had a huge goat problem and it was taken care of in the latter way with helicopter shooting.
Yeah.
And we don't have a goat problem anymore. Now we have a deer problem. When that topic comes up, the same solution is going to be much more difficult than what it was.
They hide
other
well.
people, I'm sorry?
They hide well.
Yeah, they do. Other comments on our potential conversation with Senator Gabbard and Dawn?
I would bring up green fees for tourists. When we were in Santa Barbara in November for Thanksgiving, you know, we would pass by all the creeks and there's basically a sign on each creek saying all your tourist fees goes into the taking care of this creek system. or, you know, park system. And I think that is really important, especially for, and this might be site specific because I'm in West Maui in Lahaina, so I see a lot of tourists versus natural resources. So that's one thing that I think should definitely be pursued, regardless of what area it should be. It should always be forefront in my mind. That's all.
Thank you. That's a really good idea. Connecting the dollars with where they've gone. I like that. It's really good. Other comments? Yeah, Roy.
Yeah, I think just a general comment. You know, I think I guess engineers and scientists often don't pay attention to a lot of things, and you know, they don't testify and all of that. So I think if they have technical questions, or you know, I have a lot of connections to, and others have, you know, connections to technical resources. So I think it's good to balance things out with input from scientists, engineers, and so on. Yeah, I know, you know, the environmental groups are very vocal, they're articulate. Engineers and scientists are not articulate. We don't participate much, but I think it's you know, a goal should be to get a better balance on testimony and things like that.
Okay, good point.
It's our fault for not being more active, but that's the way it is.
Okay. Thank you, Roy. Any comments on, I'm sorry, Mary's not on this yet. Any comments about the process that has given us a bit of a struggle, the Chapter 92 issues, and how do we work collectively? Any thoughts about raising that?
Are you asking members of the committee, or you're looking for Mary Stahl?
I'm asking all of you.
You know, I think what it comes down to is that some of these committees, or some of these meetings that we're trying to do, requires a little bit more on our part. And so it's very difficult to actually have a sunshine meeting to schedule what we need to talk about. So somehow the rule needs to be brought in so that we can actually just talk more about administrative housekeeping issues. I think that would be the word for the type of committee, type of session we want to do, and the email flyer, any email correspondence. Pretty much that's it.
Okay, yeah, I think that's real clear. That was made clear at the last meeting. Other comments? Anything else? I know we have other things on the agenda. I don't want to take all the time. Onana, you want to add anything at this point?
No, I don't have anything to add right now.
Okay, maybe after this meeting, maybe you and I should have a conversation before the 11th, so we go in better with an agenda, and you can tell me what I shouldn't say, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Makala?
Thank you. I do just want to remind us, we've made such an effort over time to include as many members of the public in our process as possible. And as we're all dealing with the new rules and all of that, this technology in many ways has been more inclusive. More people have participated. We've all been on Zoom meetings that have had way more people there than we did have in previous times. But I want to make sure that we still maintain that part about, you know, somebody more shy, a kupuna, whatever, has the ability to participate in the 92 process. Remember, that was a big concern of ours with the rules, to keep the oral testimony potential in there. I still care a great deal about that.
Yeah, we've all raised good issues there. It's a very challenging balance to get the work done that we may think of as minimum administrative, at the same time to respect the need to keep the public involved. Jody?
Hi, so I've been having some discussions around my office about the concern about having administrative matters and whether it needs to be in the sunshine meeting or not. Administrative, I think, like purely administrative matters probably don't need to be absolutely required by a sunshine meeting, unless it's a board kind of decision. And some other suggestions are to delegate the authority from the committee to a certain person. You know, we're gonna have Dawn secure the speaker, for example, and then she doesn't have to tell the committee about, you know, well, this person canceled and I need to contact another person, for example. I don't know if there were other matters that you folks had concerns about. Maybe you could let me know and I can, you know, follow up on them individually, but I'm not sure what other kinds of issues were coming up and causing the problems. But it's possible that I can, you know, and I've even talked to an attorney at OIP since I had her on the line for some other matters, and she kind of concurred that legislation might be kind of like a really, anyway, might not be the way to go. So if you folks could let me know what other kinds of matters, that was the only one that I had understood, was that trying to secure a speaker and then something happened, the speaker wasn't able to come through or whatever, and it needed to be changed, but there wasn't enough time because of the process. If there's other stuff, please let me know and I can try and find more answers for you.
It wasn't necessarily about the speaker, Jody. It was the fact that if I wanted to talk to Roy and Mary, then I'd have to sunshine it. But so we were doing like this round robin, you know, like I'd email Mary and Mary would email Roy, and, you know, we like basically go on this round robin. So it wasn't necessarily the speakers, it's more the actual coordinating of the meeting. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that you have to, I mean, coordinating a meeting, that really does sound purely administrative, and I don't know that that needs to be done.
Yeah.
Typical board matter would I don't know. Maybe if I can talk to you separately, Dawn, would that?
Yeah,
are you the
Mary.
one who?
I think it was
No.
Mary who was more frustrated. I actually don't have any frustration. I'm just trying to explain, you know, what she was frustrated about in the last meeting. But I think, you know, I think what it comes down to is the understanding of sunshine law and how it applies to all of us and what we cannot say and how to move through it easily, you know.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much. If you have any more thoughts, you can email it to me or Onana, and she and I will talk and get back to you after our conversation with our two legislators. Thank you, Onana. Back to you.
Thanks, Robin. And I just want to remind the members of the public that if at any time you do want to provide testimony on any agenda item, you're welcome to do so. Please just go ahead and, you know, raise your hand and let me know. So, you know, I'll ask now if there's any input from the members of the public that are on this call. All right. Hearing none, thank you very much, Robin, for doing that and putting that together. I think we'll be able to have a good discussion with Senator Gabbard and Rep. Lowen next week. Okay, so we're a little behind schedule in terms of when we told the exemption folks to come back. So Ron, I'm gonna go back to that agenda item and hand it over to you, since we do have Greg on the call now.
Thank you. Yes, we have Greg Sugawa has joined us. Do we need to give him the fifth degree here? And Greg, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. My name is Greg Sugawa. I'm with the City and County Department of Transportation Services. And yes, we've submitted our draft proposed comprehensive exemption list for the Department of Transportation Services for your consideration, and we hope for your concurrence.
Okay, and you're flying solo?
Yes, there's, I'm in my office, but my cubicle, it's just me.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. For the committee members, we had an exemption committee member, council members. We had an exemption committee meeting today. We had 3 items on the agenda. We were only able to take up 2 of them. I'll talk about the other 2 later. We were able to bring an action item to you today for the Department of Transportation Services. Greg is from there. Their list was approved for public release on and it was published in the environmental notice of November 23rd. It had a comment period from then until today, which exceeds our 15-day minimum. And we received no comments from the public. Greg attended our meeting today, and we didn't really have any substantive things to talk about. The committee didn't have any comments on the list that was published. We, of course, already seen it before, and no additional comments came up. No members of the public were there to comment on it. And we approved unanimously a recommendation to your body, to the Environmental Council, to concur with the list. So that represents a motion that does not require a second, I believe. But at this point, I want to open it up for any discussion. Don't all jump in at once. Let's go. Okay. Nobody, if somebody's talking, they're muted and I can't hear them. So I'm going to assume there is no discussion because this is an environmental council action. I'll ask the chair to take the vote.
All right, and before I do that, Greg, thanks for joining our meeting, and thanks again to DTS for the time that you folks have spent, getting this list together. So to the council, we do have, sorry, Mary Alice, were you going to say something? Oh, okay, my mistake. To the council, we do have a motion, and this is to concur with the Department of Transportation Services exemption list. This was attached to the agenda, so I'm hoping everybody did get a chance to review it. The exemption committee has made a recommendation to concur, as Ron stated. We'll go ahead and take the vote now. If it is not unanimous, then we'll go ahead and do a roll call. So all those in favor of concurring with the City and County Department of Transportation exemption lists, please say aye. Are there any abstentions? Okay. So it is unanimous. The motion carries by 8 votes, which is all of the members present here today. Any abstentions and any against? None. Okay. So the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg, for preparing the list and attending our meeting, and for all that you folks do at Department of Transportation Services. We appreciate it. Even those of us on the neighbor islands, because we, in the before times, we would go to Honolulu. So Les, I'll ask if you can handle the work of getting that list up on our SharePoint site with concurred lists.
Yes, I can.
Thank you very much, my friend. Okay. So that concludes that item.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
So will you guys send me an email with the SharePoint link with the concurred list on it?
Les, can you handle that? You can send it to me, or you can send it to Greg directly.
Oh, okay. I'll send it to you both. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and sorry, Les, before you do that, you're gonna add the date of the council concurrence to the current list, right? I think that's
Okay.
what
Look,
we typically.
I was out for a minute on a break. Did you concur with the list as written?
As written.
As written, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
so
that's the Department of Transportation Services, just to be clear.
Okay.
There was another item that was the Department of Transportation, which sounds almost exactly the same.
Uh-huh.
So this is the City and County Department of Transportation Services, not DOT.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'll put the concurrence date on the list and, send the link to it.
Thank you
very much.
Yeah, so the current list that was in the agenda has that in the upper right-hand corner in the first page for publication, November 23rd, 2021. So that'll come out, and then the concurrence date.
Okay.
I said, yeah.
Thanks for taking care of that detail, Anana. That's important. Okay, so
Thank
we
you
have
so much.
Okay, thank you. We had two other items on the agenda, and one was the Board of Water Supply coming to us for a request to publish their list for public comment. And we didn't have enough time in the meeting to get to that. In addition, there was no representative from Board of Water Supply, and we felt that it was important to have that. So we might have been able to rush through it, but I think that would have been inappropriate. There might have been some questions. And so we deferred that to the next meeting, and that the gentleman from BWS was actually here at the beginning of our meeting. That was Dominic. And so we'll take that up next meeting. We also had the DOT exemption list, and we had, there was a comment to the DOT list that was submitted through the portal, through the comment. And that comment actually came from me. I was, for one thing, testing to see if that portal, if that whole process worked. And it did, although we need a little tweaking. So that comment, official written comment, got submitted along with everything else for the meeting. So we really hope to see maybe more comments from the public, but so far we haven't seen much. So, but the system does work. And then DOT attended the meeting, and they hadn't really responded to the comment, or they weren't prepared to respond to the comment exactly when I got it. They said they were aware of it, but I think they didn't realize that any comments that come in, they should have been prepared to respond to. So at the meeting, they did provide some responses, but it was sort of a last minute thing. And all the members of our committee felt that we're sort of in agreement about the comments and had some enhancements to the comments that I had made. They concerned the potential for putting some language in about dealing with invasive species at airports, including that as an exempt item. And then also questions about seawalls and other coastal structures, and both repair and maintenance of those structures as a part one item. And if you folks will recall from the rules, part one items don't require really any action whatsoever. No consultation, no publication, no documentation. We had a concern about that in all cases, repair and maintenance of coastal revetments and sandbags, et cetera, seawalls, never have to receive any sort of exemption notice. We also had concern that any type of new seawall or revetment structure was sort of listed as exempt. And they hastened to clarify to us that they didn't mean that every project would be exempt, that they recognized that projects that were in sensitive areas per our rules, and that stood to have impacts, potentially significant impacts because of that location, would of course not be exempted. But our committee felt pretty unanimously that there should be more specific language regarding sort of the threshold of what was involved. Could you exempt the entire Kamehameha Highway if you decided to put a seawall there, and you decided it wasn't a sensitive area? And we just felt a little uncomfortable about that. In most cases, I personally believe that any new seawalls require an EA. And that will be very few circumstances in which a new seawall is going to be eligible for an exemption. Their exemption list as written did not recognize that. They were not quite in agreement with this viewpoint, obviously, because they'd written that exemption there. But we asked them to simply go back and reconsider it, based on our comments. And we had a very productive, engaging discussion with DOT about this. And although I think they were a little disappointed that we didn't simply agree to concur with their list as written, they were very cooperative and decided to engage our comments substantively and inform us again when they wanted to come back to the committee. Other committee members, is there anything you want to add to that? Okay, council, I see a council hand raised. Was that Dawn?
Yeah, I do have a question. Excuse me. Did DOT give any statistics or, like most west of Maui is basically Pialani Highway is very near the shoreline. So did they give you like specific areas where this exemption might occur, or was it just an overall statewide request?
Yeah, it was an overall statewide request and applied to highways, harbors, and airports. And again, I want to say they didn't say we're going to exempt every seawall. Please don't misunderstand me. But they did not give any threshold about what would be generally considered eligible for an exemption and what would not be eligible. And, when you have an exemption in there without any qualifications, the only qualification on it is the sensitive environment or cumulative impact qualification that's written in our rules. And, for example, many other exemptions that other agencies write have lists on them, like buildings, 25,000 square foot max. They won't exempt buildings larger than 25,000 square feet. That's often, you see that often in the exemption list. Now that comes kind of directly from our rules, so it makes it easy. But that is an example of a threshold that's applied to an exemption. There are many, many of them out there. A DLNR has a fence line length and a fence line polygon size that they apply to themselves. They say, if we're going to make a fence enclose an area bigger than this, we're not going to exempt it. We have to do an EA. So we were asking for them to just consider that idea for seawalls and other things. And we have someone from DOT here. He doesn't have to speak, but Raymond, if you have any perspective on this you'd like to share, you're more than welcome. And if you're speaking, you're on mute, so I can't hear you, but I'm going to take your lack of unmuting yourself as a statement that you're not interested in saying it at this time. You're just listening, like you said. Tessie, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure on the what's on the exemption list there, but jet skis, thrill crafts, are they on that exemption list, aside from just seawalls and coastal?
There's nothing about that, but I think that's more under DOBOR, isn't it?
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's a DOBOR, and there are rules. There are ocean use rules under the NORMA, and then you have the SORMA, so the thrill crafts are addressed there. County land use stuff has to do with, if it's a commercial use or whatever. So that's how it's divided, but that's a DOBOR regulation.
Okay, thank you.
But I would like to add, if I have the mic, that I did ask or comment that not just shoreline is impacted by some hardening devices that DOT installs. We have them along the riverbanks in Hanalei as well. And I wanted to be sure that the language that said shoreline didn't exclude freshwater or estuarine areas.
Yeah, good point. Thank you. And you shared it with them, and I hope they remember that when they go back to. We kind of piled on a lot of stuff, but they're going to come back and see us. And I think we don't have a policy on this, but maybe we should make it. See what the council thinks is that when comments are received from the public as part of this exemption draft list publication, that the agency should prepare a response. What do you guys think of that?
I think that would involve rulemaking for us. So
rulemaking? Mm-hmm. Well, isn't it just can it just be a request? Because we ask them for all kinds of things that we don't have in our rules.
We would need to also ask ourselves the question of what do we do if they don't?
If it's just a request, then they can say no.
Yeah, if we don't have some way to enforce it or to require it, then I mean, you could ask, I suppose, but.
Mhm.
Does that sound okay?
I mean, you can ask, but that's a valid point. Unless we have, unless we do it through rule making, we can make the ask, but they could also just say no, and then that's it. That's the end of it.
Yeah, well, of course, our whole committee is built on, nothing, really. There's no rules regarding our committee or anything we do.
Right, because again, a concurrent, I mean, even if we don't concur with the list, the agency can still use it.
Right,
It's,
right.
It's not.
At least concurrence is written in the rules. But the exemption committee and all its activities the rules are silent on them. All our procedures and activities. So, well, unless I hear from our attorney general that I'm committing a crime, I'm going to ask in the future, I'm going to inform our folks that we'd like to see a response to any comments that come in, because it certainly makes it easier when we get to the discussion, if they thought about it and, have something prepared.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to asking them. We just gotta make sure they know and we understand that if we can make the ask, and if they refuse, then that's kind of where our authority ends, right?
Okay, understood. I won't bring down the hammer.
Yeah, we can't say we won't concur because you didn't respond to a comment, right? Like we don't have that authority. I would say, unless we put that in rulemaking.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I just know, Ron, that I will bail you out if you do. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll be there. May take me a few hours to get there, but I'll bail you out.
Yeah, that's not the first time too, Robin. Thank you for that history of.
He makes that offer to you, Ron. He stopped doing it for me entirely.
You're too much trouble, Makala.
Well, all right, guys. So that's the exemptions committee report. I don't know if there's any comment from any final comment from anybody on our committee or members of the public, but that's it for me.
Thank you, Ron.
I just
go ahead, Rob.
I echo what Ananda said. I mean, those of you that have not been on that committee don't realize how much work Ron puts into it. And I mean, yeah, we all are on the committee and we read it, but there's nowhere near the amount of work that Ron does in that. And I've said this to him, it's almost like he's a staff person doing this work. And we could not do it without your help. So good job, Ron. Nice
Well,
work.
no, thank you. And I think, if we do get more staff, I think that might be something we might want to consider at some point. For a couple of reasons. I sometimes wonder if, I'm stretching my authority in some way, but if somebody doesn't do it, there's nobody to help the agencies, and they really need the help. Our new rules are quite different, and all of our agencies have been extraordinarily cooperative and willing and really trying hard, and that energizes me to do the work because I see how important it is, and they're not just checking the boxes. And DOT is a perfect example. They're really, really substantively engaged on this.
I think
And
it's
to the extent that there is no regulation or rule that they must do any of this stuff, it's that relationship between Ron and that agency, those many conversations, human to human, that make them want to comply, that make them want to respond, that helps them respond to comments. It's not because you have a hammer that you don't have. It's
Well, in
because-
this case, I'm the face of the Environmental Advisory Council. It could be anyone. And I think it is one of our principal roles under the law. And even if it's vaguely defined, it's still one of our principal roles. And I think a lot of agencies, a surprising number of people in agencies around the state are relating to our council directly and substantively, only through this process. So, you know, I try to put my best face on, not swear or anything like that.
Well, thank you, Ron, for doing that. We appreciate your expertise in this area.
Ah, shucks. Thank you.
All right, any other questions, comments from the council or members of the public? All right, well, Mary Alice, have we heard anything from Dan or Denker?
No. Oh wait, I think I did get hold on. Hold on. Aloha, Mary Alice speaking. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on a Zoom. Can you call back later? Thank you. Oh, that wasn't Dan. Let's see. Dan, I just saw the invite. Are you still going? I can come on now. Would you like me to respond? Please join now, Chair.
Yeah, I think so, since we have them scheduled and our business is done.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and hear that presentation from the LUC. And I think it would be great for folks. And I think while you're responding to him, I'll just remind everybody that our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, February 1st. Council meeting will be at the same time, 1 to 3:30. We'll schedule it for that. We'll see if we use the whole time. Does Dan have the link?
I sent him, yes, I believe so. Les, if you see him asking to join, that would be, he should be
Joining soon. Okay.
Yeah, I hope
So
so.
thank you for organizing that. And I do want to say thank you to you, Mary Alice, Les, and Jody for working on updating our agendas so that we're compliant with all of the new requirements. I don't know if everybody on the council noticed, but there's quite a bit more text in our agendas. So we might need to do some further tweaking on that. But if you're using any, of the old ones, committee chairs for your templates, please take note of the new agenda. What we had actually asked us to do was to use the template that Jody reviewed and edited for the full council agenda. So just changes on that.
Chair, apropos of that, it would be great if we could get a Word copy of that, and then I could put it on my Word agenda. And then next time Les doesn't have to insert that stuff in there. It's a little hard to copy from the PDF. It doesn't come out quite right.
Right. Okay, Les, is that something that you can do, is to create a template with the new chapter?
Yeah, I'll send it. I can send it to all the committee chairs.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. And Chair, I also wanted to say that we do expect to have an exemption committee meeting next month. So, as long as we're scheduling, and I think this time, hopefully an hour should work.
Okay.
Last time it didn't quite work because we had 3 items, but 2 items should fit in an hour agenda.
All right. And then any other committees planning to meet?
Yeah, we're gonna have, I'm looking at the schedule, Anana, you edited and made better. And for February, we need to vote on the PIG's recommendations for what the process will be. In March, the March meeting, folks, is going to be the strategic planning forum. So please make sure you're available for that March meeting. But in February, there'll need to be a PIG meeting prior to that.
Okay, so I'll leave that to you to schedule, because you can schedule that whenever.
Yeah.
Whenever. Okay.
Here, Dan Ordenker is now joined our meeting.
All right, great. Hi, Dan. Welcome. I'm just going to finish really quick with scheduling for the next meeting, and then we'll move on to your presentation.
Yeah. My apologies for being late.
Okay, timing wise, it worked out. Thank you. Okay, so the PIG, we'll add the PIG agenda item to the February meeting. Robin, will you have a legislative committee meeting as well?
Probably.
Yeah.
Okay. To report back on our conversations with Senator. Yeah.
Okay. And then Mahina, are you planning to have rules in February?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay. And I know Mary's not here, but I don't know if you folks want to give.
I don't know if we will. I think I'd like to take Mary's lead, and I'm not sure if Roy agrees or not.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we need a meeting, but I'll leave it up to you folks.
Okay, I'll check in with Mary.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, folks. All right, Dan, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you. And thank you again for taking the time to give the LUC overview to this group.
Okay, thank you very much. And once again, my apologies for being late. I can't even begin to tell you what my day's been like. But anyway, okay, so the Land Use Commission generally operates under Chapter 205. We're a nine-member commission. But right now, we only have 8 seated commissioners. They serve for 4-year terms. The maximum they can serve is 8 years. Our current chair is Jonathan Lekeke Scheuer. Our vice chair is Dan Giovanni, and our second vice chair is Edmund Axon. What the Land Use Commission does, and don't know how familiar everybody is with land use in Hawaii, the structure, but put county zoning out of your head for a moment. All the land in the state of Hawaii is divided up into 4 districts at the state level. Conservation, rural, agriculture, and urban. Conservation lands and what goes on inside conservation lands is governed by BLM. Okay. If you want to move the conservation district boundaries, then you have to come to us, no matter how big the parcel is. If you want to move anything else, any other district boundaries, say between ag and rural or ag and urban, which is the most common, ag to urban, then if it's over 15 acres, you come to us for approval. If it's not, you go to the counties. Our district boundary amendment proceedings are contested case hearings. So everybody gets to come in. The parties are there. They're usually the petitioner, the county, and OPSD are parties as a matter of right. And they make their presentation as to why, under the criteria contained in Chapter 205, which I'll just give you a general idea of, that the boundaries should be moved. Generally, the work that we do is moving in the district boundary arena is moving ag to urban. And it's usually a housing project. Although lately we've been seeing a lot of other things, or a commercial project or school. And the petitioner has the burden of showing that this is the best use of the land, that it's no longer properly used for agriculture, or conservation even for that matter, and that the economic, social, and government, for lack of a better word, benefits outweigh keeping the land in ag. Because under Article 11 of the Constitution, the state is supposed to preserve ag land for agricultural use. I'll come back to that, those petitions in a minute. The other things that we do are what we call special permits and declaratory rulings. Declaratory rulings are basically, we don't know what this portion of the statute of Chapter 205 means, or we don't know what the commission meant when it wrote this in its decision and order, and we want you to interpret it. Those are fairly straightforward. Special permits get a little bit weirder. Special permits are, once again, over 15 acres, us, under 15 acres, just the counties. Special permits are for any reasonable use that is not an allowed use in the agricultural district. That is supposed to be non-permanent in nature. And a waste, the waste dump, Waimanalo Gulch is an example that that's not supposed to be permanent. That's supposed to be a temporary use. And it also does not fit into the usual urban designation. It's not housing. It's not, a commercial activity. It's something different. Up until recently, most of our special permits have revolved around waste dumps, quarries, agricultural uses that are semi-permanent in nature, but can be taken down, such as a distillery on Maui, for example, and other uses that you would not really fit into any square peg or round hole, whichever way you want to look at it. Recent amendments to Chapter 205 have provided that if you want to build solar farms on Class B or C lands, LSB rated B or C lands, then you have to come to the Land Use Commission for approval. Class A land solar farms are not permitted, and D&E lands are allowed as a matter of right. There are a laundry list of things that are allowed on agricultural lands that are contained in Chapter 205, and I won't go through them, but they're usually things that are associated with agricultural activity and infrastructure, in a nutshell. Now, where do we fit in with you folks? Okay, when somebody files a petition for a district boundary amendment, the petition is 99% of the time not complete. And what's not complete and what's missing is the environmental review. They file a petition to set a placeholder and to establish us, the Land Use Commission, as the accepting authority for the district boundary amendment petition, or the environmental impact statement, or EA, or whatever, finding no significant impact with regard to the project. The Land Use Commission then applies Chapter 343 in making a determination on whether or not the environmental impact statement, EA, or whatever is sufficient, on whether there can be a finding of no significant impact. Our staff does a review of those environmental impact statements. We worked with the petitioners through the draft stage. We comment. Very often, we try and anticipate what the commissioner's concerns are, and we're very focused on making sure that during the course of the environmental review, that the questions that we think that the commissioners are going to ask will come to the forefront. And now I want to emphasize that review is a precursor to a review that takes place during the hearing with regard to the public trust doctrine. So for all the information to satisfy the commissioners with regard to the issues that are within the public trust are not satisfied in the environmental impact statement or the EA, they will probably deny the project. And there have been times when we've denied the environmental impact statements based on community testimony that they were not properly consulted, particularly Hawaiian practitioners were not properly consulted. The public trust doctrine is a moving target, as we all know, I think. It encompasses water, environmental concerns, federal environmental concerns, cultural resource protection, archaeological resource protection, and all those things that have fallen within the umbrella of the PASH doctrine and cultural practitioners' rights. When there are two places where projects get hung up. One is just generally not adhering to the public trust doctrine. The second is sort of a connection between the public trust doctrine, or rather the project, and the environmental issues associated with the public trust. And what I mean by that is we've seen projects hung up over drainage. because the engineering submittals show that aren't sufficient to handle a 100-year storm, and there's a concern that the reefs will be damaged or that taro farms will be damaged downstream or whatever. There are a whole gamut of issues like that that can hang up a project that on its face don't seem to be environmentally related, but the impacts of failing to provide us with a satisfactory drainage plan, water plan, construction mitigation plan, and things like that, which directly impact the environment, can result in a denial of a petition. And with that, I think I'll open it up to questions. That's a very general overview. I encourage you to look at Chapter 205 for some of the specifics. And you can always contact me directly if you have any further questions. I'm more than happy to talk with anybody about what we do generally. I think I know enough about it so I can answer some questions. But that's
Thanks so much, Dan, for that overview. That's wonderful. And I think there's definitely within this group folks that are pretty familiar with what the Land Use Commission does, and maybe others who aren't as familiar. So I'll open it up to Ron. You have a question? Go ahead.
But before you get started there, I'm sorry, just to interrupt for just a second. There was one other thing I forgot to add because it's relatively new, is that we have a provision in our rules that require an assessment of sustainability and climate change impacts. Okay, sorry. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ron.
No, not at all. Thank you for adding that, Dan. I appreciate that overview. It's nice to see the LUC summarized in 800 words or whatever it was.
Well, I have to explain to my wife what I do.
Thanks. It's good. I have a concern that, it's not specific to the LUC. It's specific to bodies that make decisions on Chapter 343 documents. And just wanted your perspective on that. Never been able to ask you this. Who is the decider? Let me make sure I understand. Who is the decider on whether, let's say, an EIS is adequate or not?
Okay, two-part answer to that question. From a procedural standpoint, whether or not they've checked all the boxes and everything is technically in there, that's staff. Okay, but when it comes to the sufficiency of the representations made, or what's the word that I'm not representations, the
substantive part.
Yeah, the substantive, I'll use that word, substantive portion of the EIS or EA, that's the commissioners. That's the 8 and 9 commissioners.
Yeah, and that's it's interesting because that's true for several other bodies in the state as well, and in the counties. And for example, the BLNR does that role for certain divisions of DLNR, and for other divisions of DLNR, those decisions are made by the administrator or the department director. It's an interesting mix. I've seen some instances where a decision was made by the commission, the Land Use Commission in particular, that were adverse to the applicant on a project, but later, upon polling and discovery, let's put it that way, it's determined that several, and in fact, in some cases, a majority of commissioners had not even read the EIS, and yet they voted it was insufficient. And when that happened, and thinking of a particular issue, I won't name it, but the decision was withdrawn, very shortly after by the Land Use Commission, I'm sure, upon consulting its attorneys. But it's a problem that I found in many boards. It's not just the Land Use Commission, is that board members may not have the time or the inclination, the energy to actually engage the materials that are before them, and they rely on public testimony or even the last 5 public testifiers to make their decision. And I wondered if you ever thought about that, addressed it, had any concerns yourself.
Well, every executive officer or, counterpart on a board and commission is always concerned that their commissioners haven't done all their homework. There are two things. First of all, that's never happened in the 10 years that I've been the executive officer of the commission.
Good. And the instance I'm citing was before then. Yes.
Yeah. Second of all, we endeavor to make sure that the commissioners have done their work.
Okay.
I touch bases with every commissioner individually before a hearing to make sure that they understand what their obligations are and what the issues are. I think that, and that's just me, okay, I think that one of the things that the state in general suffers from is that, all these commissioners are volunteer, and the 8 commissioners that I currently have are extremely good about and diligent about doing their work, and they're very good. I do know that other boards and commissions aren't as lucky as I am, but I think that is, let me back up for a second. We have a very close working relationship. We have had a very close working relationship with you folks, and well, not with the commission itself, but with staff. And staff has always bent over backwards to make sure that we get everything in front of the commissioners and we make sure everything is done properly. When every commissioner comes on board, I spend a half a day going over what their obligations are and doing that. I think that part of a solution for that is, there was that bill out there, there is a bill out there with regard to commissioner training. And it was, I didn't testify on it and it didn't mean anything to me because I already do it. I think that there's an obligation on the part of the staff on the individual commissions to make sure that their commissioners understand what they have to do. I think that would go a long way. Sometimes these commissioners come on board and they really don't understand what it is they signed up for. So I think education would go a long way.
Well, thank you, Dan. That's a really thoughtful response. I'm so glad I got an opportunity to ask you this question. And it's something I would like to ask some other boards. Like you say, some of them are not quite so lucky or not staffed with, quite as diligent and professional and thoughtful people as I know that you have. And it's a tremendous obligation to have to make a Chapter 343 decision. Like you said, some people didn't know what they signed up for. So thank you for taking that so seriously and having thought about it.
Thank you. I appreciate the positive feedback.
Thanks, Ron. Anybody else have any questions for Don? Roy, go ahead.
Oh, Dan, thanks for your presentation. Also, we were faced with a case where we had to review a EIS and give an opinion. What happens if it's a very technical issue and you don't have the experts on within the commissioners? How do you go about? And we had in our case we had opposing views and they're all experts and we didn't know. It was very difficult to decide on who was more credible and so on. So how do you deal with that?
First of all, there are a couple of different scenarios with regard to that. If it's a glaring defect, or if it's a defect that are different opinions, OPSC is always a party to our proceedings. And we rely on OPSC to a certain extent to tell us what they think. And they have the ability to get experts involved. They even have the ability to bring experts in and provide testimony. There's a lot of experts in the state with regard to everything from agriculture to energy that can provide us with testimony to help us make our decisions. We have a couple of commissioners on board who have engineering or other types of backgrounds that, are helpful. Right now, we have Dan Giovanni on our commission who used to work for HECO, and he has an engineering background, and he's got most of these guys running scared because he understands it all. When it comes to those types of things, I think that this is part of the education process. Our commissioners view EISs and EAs the same way they view the public trust doctrine. And that is that under Supreme Court decisions with regard to the public trust doctrine, you're not calling balls and strikes. What you're doing is you're a trustee. So if there's any doubt, you fall down in favor of the public, right? That's where you end up. And I have told petitioners that they better be really sure that they're able to prove their case, because otherwise, if there's any doubt in the commissioner's minds, they're going to reject, because that's the way they view an EIS, is that if there's any, the way our commissioners view an EIS, if there's any doubt as to what the answer is, they're going to fall in favor of the public. But I mean, when you have other commissions or even other agencies that are reviewing EISs and they don't have the technical expertise in-house, it is a problem. But, the way Chapter 343 is currently written, the accepting authority doesn't have the ability to go out and hire somebody to make a determination on something very technical.
Okay, thank you very much. Good input.
All right, any other questions? Okay. I have one for you, Don. I know that, recently the LUC also went through updating its rules, and the council did that, a couple of years back. So I think you highlighted one provision in terms of adding the requirement for, analysis of sustainability and climate change, which is something that was also added to Chapter 343. Are there any other provisions that you wanted to highlight, for the council, new things that were written into the rules, or just particular provisions that you think warrant discussing?
Well, that was the only really substantive change we made to our rules. Our rules, one of the things about our rules is that we have a constantly changing playing field in terms of, how attorneys present things, what issues arise. And since I've been on board, we've had 2 rule changes, which is kind of unheard of, because before I came on, we hadn't had a rule change in almost 20 years. And what I'm trying to do is keep pace with the things that we're discovering may or may not work. But the climate change and sustainability issues were very important to this group of commissioners, given what's happening in the world, and given the 2050 plan that was just promulgated. The climate change and sustainability issues were developed from the input that we got from the sustainability coordinator during the period of time when she was revising the 2050 plan. But other than that, there really isn't substance, unless you want to take away the IAL. Can you get rid of the whole IAL section for us? That would be nice.
I don't think we have the authority to do that. Sorry. No, not funny. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? I thought I had one more for you, and I just can't recall it off the top of my head right now.
Well, this isn't the end. I mean, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to contact me, and I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions.
No, we appreciate that. Thank you so much, Don, for taking the time. And we know you're very busy with everything you got going on.
You're welcome. Yeah, no, when you're gearing up for legislature, you never know when somebody's going to drop a bomb in your lap. So,
Right.
Okay. Well, thank you once again. You can get in touch with me if you have any other questions or anything at all you want.
That'd be great. Thank you so much, Don, for taking the time.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, council members. Well, we don't have any other official business. Are there any, wrap-up items, public forum? I open it up again to members of the public who have joined us. If you have anything that you wanted to share. Okay, no. Dawn, go ahead.
I had sent an email out regarding the Maui County Planning Commission and that decision that was overturned by the circuit court. And I got a lot of questions from a lot of people, and I actually don't know too much about the case. So what I was trying to do possibly in the next couple months, maybe in the next 6 months, depending on the order, if it's signed by the circuit court, is to get all the parties, invite all the parties involved to see if they would discuss it. And of course, I'll run it through Mary and Auna and Jody, just in case there's any issues. But I just wanted to let you know I was still on it and, trying to get at least some sort of presentation. It would have been interesting to see what was in that case. So that was all.
Yeah, thank you, Dawn, for working on that. And I think, yeah, it makes sense to at least invite all parties involved so we can get kind of an objective presentation as we did with other issues. And if certain parties don't want to present, that's fine. I mean, as long as we're providing the invite to them, I think that works out. But yeah, thank you for doing that. Go ahead, Maka'ala.
Mahalo. I didn't ask him, but I'm wondering, Onauna, as you have made an effort to encourage applications for our council to be reviewed and get some new members. I'm wondering if other boards and commissions are experiencing the same problems and whether or not the chairs of several of them get together or talk and say, maybe 4 or 5 of us need to show up and say it's hamstringing a lot of us.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think the Land Use Commission has, or the state has at least been pretty good about keeping the commissions. I would say the Land Use Commission and the Land Board, who they deal with some really important issues and they do actual approvals of permitting, right? So, they have 8 of their 9 members, but yeah, to answer your question, no, I haven't been in communication with other chairs of other boards and commissions on that specific issue. And for us, it's kind of a new issue that's happened in the last few months that we are really, today we barely made quorum again. So I thank you, all of you who have showed up so that we were able to have our meeting. But yeah, I guess I'm not personally aware of other boards and commissions who are having the same issue. If you folks have other information, let me know. I can certainly reach out to folks. I think, with talking to Mary Alice and talking to Sharon, I'm going to reach out to her again to touch base with her. And Robin and I will go ahead and bring this up with, Senator Gabbard and Rep. Lowen. I think we're doing what we can without getting too pushy. Yeah.
Good. If it is statewide, then there might be different ways to call attention to it. And we should consider that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like I said, I'm not aware of other boards having the same quorum issues as we do. We actually have a really big board as compared. The land board's five members, I believe, 5 or 6 members. Land Use Commission is 9. I think planning commissions are about that 5-6 range too. So we do have a pretty big board. What we might consider is, this goes to Chapter 92, and now I'm recalling it, is Chapter 92 might need a fix, particularly for our board, right? Where it says that we have to have 2/3, quorum is essentially 2/3 of all of the members that you're entitled to. So we're entitled to 15, which means that we need 8 for quorum. But, maybe it needs to be changed to quorum equals, 2/3 of the members appointed, right? Because currently we only have 11. So we're down 4. So getting to 8 is difficult. So if you can make a note for that, because that might be a fix for us in terms of holding meetings with less than 8 people.
And is that a legislative fix?
That would have to be a fix in Chapter 92. That's not something that we can do via rulemaking.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you can add that to the list.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions, folks? Okay, well, I think we had a good productive meeting. I thank you all for showing up and being prepared for these meetings, and thank you to the members of the public who have joined. Thank you, Jody and Les, for your support. And we'll, Jody, if there's any new developments with, the way we need to notice meetings and whatnot, please do let us know, and keep us updated on that. I'm not sure, Jody, do you happen to know when the suspension of the in-person venue expires?
End of February. I
February.
think it was like February 28th.
Okay.
Be the, I mean, if it doesn't get extended, the March meeting would be the one that would.
Yeah, so Les, when you send around the template for the agendas, I'm just thinking maybe you can bracket the portions about the in-person location so that we won't provide that for February. But we need to remember to reinstate it once that provision is back in effect. Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about sitting in that room next month. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's not very complicated.
Sorry, Les. But yeah, thanks everybody for hanging in there with us. And if anything comes up, feel free to reach out to me via email or text or call or, whatever you need to do. And happy birthday again, Mahina. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and adjourn. It's 2:37 p.m. Thank you, everybody. See you folks in February.
See you.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Bye.